This time around, we've got a pretty healthy mix of company and creative parts of DC's history, including 2 heroes and 2 editors. The biggest of note has definitely got to be Robin Hood, and it's fun to see DC's interpretation of a character built literally centuries ago. If this is your first time with us, I've found that a lot of modern media is pretty impenetrable to newcomers. My goal is to provide a breakdown and guide to the DC universe in the order of creation so it isn't quite as overwhelming. If you have a favorite character or story and it isn't in this video, it's likely to be found in either a previous one or a video coming later down the line. So to the newbies, welcome, and to the oldies, welcome back. Let's talk about DC Comics. Wayne Brady is an American television personality, comedian. Wait a minute. Wing Brady was another character to join the comic world through New Fun #1, and just like the protagonists from the other stories in the same book, he was ultimately pretty flat and worked best as a way to just tell some adventure stories. Brady was a pilot who volunteered his skills to the French Foreign Legion, though he had plenty of stories where he was on foot too. Most of the time he was plunked down in North Africa, going on pulp-grade endeavors that had him knocking out bandits, smugglers, and corrupted power figures, eventually zeroing in on that last one the most as he became a spy later in his career. I'll be frank here, I want to give a comprehensive history of DC, so I felt like I had to talk about Wing Brady, but that's pretty much all there is to him. So let's put a nice little bow on it and move on to our next entry. In 1908, eventual executive editor Whitney Ellsworth was born in Brooklyn, a man who would become a driving force behind a whole truckload of the company's creative decisions. We don't know much about his private life, but at age 19, having at some point gathered a personal interest in becoming a creative artist, Whit took a course at the YMCA and then took the leap into newspaper strips. Eventually, Whitney came into contact with Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson, who invited him onto National Allied Publications as an assistant editor, with the chance for upward mobility. As we know, Malcolm wasn't around for very long, and Whitney actually left the company around the same time that the locks were changed, choosing to pack up his things and travel to California. But having relocated, Ellsworth had the time to ponder what he wanted to do, and just over a year later, came back to the company, full of ideas and renewed vigor. He became a major creative guide for National Allied Publications as a whole, giving a yay or nay for countless comic ideas. His most notable decision, out of all of them, came with Batman #1. You see, it was pretty bog standard for the heroes to win the day, and that was usually predicated on the death of the story's villain. So most of the time, if not nearly every time, villains would appear a total of 1 time, and then have a nice grave dug for them after the last panel of the same issue. This model held true even during the writing phase of Batman's first standalone comic. They introduced the Joker. You might have heard of him, and we'll talk about him relatively soon, but after giving the Dark Knight a run for his bottomless money, he was killed off at the climax of the comic. Whitney Ellsworth took a look through the story, as he did with countless others before, and felt like the Joker had a much greater potential than could be used up in 1 paperback. So the choice was made on his instruction. The Joker lived. Ellsworth continued his work with DC for a long while, also getting the opportunity to operate as their movie studio contact, becoming a producer for Superman serials, and later The Adventures of Superman in the 1950s. He kept up the good work until the early 1970s, eventually retiring. Also, quick side note, I admittedly haven't watched Deadwood. It's on my list, but apparently there's a character named Whitney Ellsworth, and he's actually named after our Whitney, which I think is pretty neat. So, Vincent Sullivan was born in 1911, and we know pretty much next to nothing about the guy himself. He was a cartoonist for the Brooklyn Eagle before signing on as an artist at National Allied Publications. After Malcolm Wheeler Nicholson was kicked out the front door, Vincent managed to convince Donenfeld and Leibowitz to make him their new editor-in-chief. In that role, he made two notable choices amongst others. First, he secured the rights to Superman from Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, a decision that ultimately ruined the duo financially, and he was also the one to contact Bob Kane initially about building a new superhero, which ultimately led to Batman. Then, in April of 1939, a special comic was published by the company to coincide with the New York's World Fair. It was titled, pretty unoriginally, New York's World Fair Comics #1. The reason I bring this up? Well, Vincent Sullivan was executive editor for this particular paperback, but barely saw a cent from it. Eventually, things escalated to a dispute over royalties, and by the following year, he stormed out of the office, never to work for National Allied again. Wait a second, I thought Green Arrow came after Superman. Oh. Born Robert Fizztooth in the latter half of the 12th century, Robin Hood's story begins with his return from the Crusades. He finds his family castle in ruins, and even later finds that royal dillweed Prince John has usurped his elder brother, King Richard the Lionheart. Most people know the rest: Sherwood Forest, steal from the rich, give to the poor, yada yada. But we're covering the DC side of things here, so what's different from the usual stuff printed in the 1,000,001 retellings we've seen in the past 600 plus years? Well, mostly it has to do with encounters with time-traveling superheroes, usually Green Arrow, funnily enough. The first time kind of goes as follows. There's this guy, named Guy, of Gisborne, and he's a rival to Robin Hood, usually competing with him for the affection of Maid Marian. Well, somebody offed him, and everybody's pointing fingers at our Lincoln Green lad. Then, here's Green Arrow and Speedy, time travelers from the far-off year of 1942, here to clear his name. They shake hands and call it a day. Then he meets a handsome fellow named Batman, and his young ward Robin, from the even further off year of 1946. They participate in an archery tournament, shake hands, and, again, call it a day. He gets a neat half-dozen more visits from future farers, and literally does nothing about the constant stream of people lining up to stare at him in mild awe. That isn't to say that he didn't have any adventures in line with his classic style. In fact, he got plenty of them, but most were pretty standard fare, so I figured they don't need to be discussed in much detail. In any case, Robin Hood's life, aside from a handful of weird encounters, was pretty much identical to how it was in the legends. Personally, I still think the best version is the one from Men in Tights, but that's just me. And that's where we'll leave our story for now. If you liked the video, give it a like, and if you liked me, go ahead and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.